Hi there, I'm Mark
And I'm Cara.
and we are the Green Task Force Veteran Rangers. Our work as Veteran Rangers ranges from woodland creation, woodland management, park activities and conservation projects.
There are lots of benefits to working outdoors. What you're going to hear now is our perspective of our personal journeys working with our fellow veterans and in these beautiful green spaces.
I served 7 years in the Royal Marines in a reconnaissance unit. Served two operational tours of Afghanistan, Herrick 5 and Herrick 9. But my uniform service equates to 12 years where I served as a firefighter before joining the Royal Marines and served as a police officer at the later sort of stages of my uniform career before embracing a job, a role within the forestry sector. Coming out of the military it's a shock to the system. Fortunate for me, I joined relatively mature in comparison to some of the young men and women that joined our armed forces. I joined at the age of 24, so I'd already become and lived a little bit. I'd already served in the fire service prior, so it was more of a shock going in than it was coming out, in all honesty. But coming out, it hits you hard, and you leave for one of a few reasons. One is because you feel the time is to leave. You feel like you've exhausted what you wanted to achieve, become, or you might leave because you feel you have to leave, through mental health and one thing and another. So for me, it was a mixture of the two. So leaving the military felt a necessity, but it was also one of the hardest things to walk away from because it's where I felt most safe. So for me, working in a reconnaissance unit, we were used to working in small teams, and every man in that team was highly capable of being just good guys, just general good all-round, highly capable, highly motivated individuals. And the job roles within the teams, although they were varied, every man knew whose and what job was to be achieved and what standard. So the team ethos was never really spoken about, it was just there, and that's evident of our intensive training. So being part of a strong team really is a warm feeling, knowing that everyone's got your backs, particularly when those challenging moments are in front of you. So to leave something like that and find yourself working in a small team or a large team in sort of a commercial or corporate element, away from the military in that sort of civilian role, is a massive culture shock. Dare I say it, for me, I really struggled to relate to it and understand that why I didn't feel as supported, or that team ethos or the team player, together everyone achieves more. Although it was there and pushed as a mantra within the organisations, it never felt like it really truly existed to the standard I was used to. Working and enjoying outdoors, that wilderness backdrop, as you can see, is just both a privilege to be part of and have that opportunity to work and recover within. For me, wilderness, as a child I grew up in the countryside, and within in the canopy of the woodlands, there's this nostalgic synergy with military service and mainstream military service, particularly the Royal Marines. We spend a lot of time in the woodlands, plantations and various training grounds, learning to understand our backgrounds and our surroundings, rather, sorry. So for me, it's really nostalgic, and takes me back to some of the enjoyable memories of my military career, but also, and some not so good. No one likes being cold and wet, but for me, there's a very, very strong, deep-rooted connection with my military career, my childhood, and now. So for me, I feel life's come full circle, and working amongst the trees, the open fields, listening to the birds, listening to the swaying trees, for me, it's healing in itself. So for me, in that working day or that break that we have, where we can immerse ourselves in the woods. You know, I'm surrounded by some, you know, giants. Feel protected, almost feel guarded. I'm under a canopy. It's a belonging, and that warm, nostalgic feeling taking me to a time, particularly within my childhood, not so much my military career, where there was no responsibility and everything was just, you know, lived for fun. So yeah, so to be amongst the trees again, in that working environment and that resting environment and that therapeutic element that we provide, is just wholesome. So leaving the military, as I've already mentioned, is a massive culture shock. Fortunate for me, that friendship circle is tight, and there's many friends many miles away, various counties and various nations that I still keep in touch with. But you know, when you go and start life in, let's say, the real world, you do feel somewhat isolated, and that social element, you know, you're longing for. You know, you can't have the same night twice, but within the military, you know, you can enjoy yourself with some close friends and comrades that you've both trained and served on operations alongside each other. It's yeah, it takes some matching, it really does. And does that set me up for failure because I'm always comparing? You know, I guess there's an element to that. But I know that, you know, my friendship circle is incredibly strong, and my friendships are there. There is that initial phase as a veteran service leaver where you feel this is the end and you won't see them again. But once you settle down into the working parts of life, then you soon realise, you know, they're friends for life. So for me, my career just felt that it was a constant, not burden, but a personal drive to remain uniformed, because that's where I kind of saw some solace and some peace of mind that I was working in that sort of high dynamic delivery, um, and, and adrenaline. It came to the point where I realised that it was fatiguing me being that person, being switched on, hyper focused, hyper vigilant, was fatiguing me, at a rapid rate. So to find the job, and the connection with, um, working and resting within the woodlands has come at probably the right time. In all fairness, for me, I feel life has come full circle, and like I've already said, it's taken me back to a time in my life when I was a child, little responsibilities, relaxed and live life to the maximum. So I saw the course of the wilderness intervention approaches, and for me, it really struck a chord. It felt so fitting to, you know, try and bottle up what I've got around me right now and deliver that to veterans alike, service leavers, um, that may find themselves in this working environment or needing that to make that connection. So being able to provide and facilitate that connection, which we've all got, there's something primal about being outside, in nature. There really is. So to be able to deliver that and capture that, but also strengthen it in that therapy sense, for me was a must. So to be able to incorporate that into what we're trying to achieve here, was golden. So for me, belonging, I know that's, a very sort of well used word within the armed forces, particularly some of the recruitment campaigns, but it's true. I think the word is perfectly, used, in this sense, bringing veterans together in this environment where you can be, you know, jovial and ruthless to a degree, um, and feel safe in, a community where, you know, we trust, and belong. So to do that in this surrounding of this beautiful backdrop, of woodlands, mountains, is just really fitting. And like I say, it's nostalgic, and the synergies with military career and bringing veterans together in this environment is really healing. My proudest moment, my military career to date, or my uniformed career to date, has seen me save life, prevent injury, and a whole host of things. But always, fundamentally, the public service element has a strong connection with all of them. And being able to be that person has been a big makeup of mine, or genetic makeup of my working career. So to be in the position now where I can provide that platform, for me, my proudest moment is seeing an individual within the company, you know, come to us and develop themselves to the point where, you know, they consider themselves unrecognisable, but also recognise the fact that they're who they should be, and also find that urge to push themselves for better and self-development for the greater needs of their own well-being. So to see an individual progress, recover, and come back and being able to challenge and live a working environment where they feel safe is truly rewarding.
If I should die, think only this of me, that there's some corner of a foreign field that is for ever England. There shall be in that rich earth a richer dust concealed, a dust whom England bore, shaped, made aware. Give once her flowers to love, her ways to roam, a body of England's breathing English air, washed by the rivers, blessed by the suns of home, and think is this heart all evil shed away, a pulse in eternal mind, no less, gives somewhere back the thoughts by England given, her sights and sounds, dreams happy as her day, and laughter learnt of friends and gentleness in hearts at peace under an English heaven.
Coming out of the military for me was really difficult. I wasn't ready. Unfortunately, for me, it wasn't a choice that I, made readily or easily, because of other commitments at home, ill health of my mum. I chose to kind of come out, and as the eldest, look after her needs and what she needed. So I think there's always been a little bit of resentment and anger there. I think just because I wasn't ready. It's very hard to leave something knowing that you haven't accomplished what you wanted to, you haven't had the experiences you wanted to, or hoped you would have. And for me, my intention was always to be a lifer, and that was cut very short. So there was, that added to the difficulty, I think, from coming out. Once you combine that with the fact that the civilian world, the civilian world is very different. Being a junior entry, going in so young, I went from a child to an adult in that environment. I think the biggest difference between being in the military and then having to kind of integrate back into civilian, your civilian surroundings or civilian life is just the difference in your behaviours in there. I think growing up in that environment, going from a child to an adult and being a junior entry, it was a really different environment. You've got the banter, you've got the it's like a family away from home. I think also is that trust. You trust each other, and you also have the same moral. These morals and these respect has been hammered into you, and you're around those like-minded people. Once you come to the civilian world, people are much more, individuality. Everyone isn't, not everyone has got those same moral standards, those same, like I say, same level of respect, and also just losing that knowledge of you work hard, people acknowledge how hard you've worked, and suddenly you're starting again, and no one cares, or it feels like no one cares where you've been, what you've done, how hard you worked to get there. It just suddenly is you're just another person in a suit behind a desk. I think for me, having changed careers, it was really important. I felt trapped. It was almost like being in a cage. I worked in an office, very claustrophobic, um, in the sense of I just felt walled in and caged in all the time. Not just in a sense of just being in an office, stuck in a chair behind a desk, but also myself and my personality, having to constantly check yourself before you open your mouth, your humour. I just couldn't be myself. I didn't feel I could be myself. I was like a watered down version of who I really am, and that coming to the wilderness made me realise, who I am is good enough, and I can be myself. I think I think to ask myself, what did I lose when I left the military? What I think that's a really hard question, because I don't even think I've worked that out myself yet properly. I'm growing, I'm learning, I'm developing, and I'm starting to know what I want, what I deserve. And I think that always was the thing with me. I think being in the military was so easy because I didn't have to choose. I didn't have to be anything other than what was expected of me, and I didn't have to do anything other than what was expected of me. If I didn't want to make a decision, then someone would make it for me. And I think that coming out of the military, it wasn't necessarily what I lost, it was more what I gained. I suddenly gained control, I suddenly gained responsibility, and that's just scared the hell out of me. When I walked into the first ever meeting that I had with Green Task Force, I was in a really, really low place. I don't. It's hard to go back and think about it sometimes, because there was. I felt very hopeless, very lost. Um, there was just something missing, and it was almost like as soon as I walked into that room, and as soon as I met the people that were around, and I met, my boss, well, who's now my boss, it was like coming home. It was really strange. It was that immediate feeling of belonging, and of just trust and safety almost immediately. The things that I'd felt like I hadn't had for a long time. So having come so far since I joined Green Task Force myself, and having the opportunities that I've had and the breakthroughs that I've had, the natural next step for me was to learn how to share that with other people. What I've managed to achieve and where I am is not to be overlooked or dismissed. It's really important what I am doing now and where I am and the reasons that I'm here. Um, you know, I wanted to focus on that, and if I can share that with other people, and I can help other people get to where I am now, then it was a no-brainer. Let's do this. Let's get on this course, and let's share it. Let's share Let's share what is here, what we have, and what you can get from just the open space. So there are lots of benefits from being in the wilderness. I think for me personally, it was just getting those cages down. You look around and you see new growth, old growth, and it represents a lot. Really represents a lot. And there is always a way to link that into your journey, where you've been, where you're going, you know, where you hope you'll be, but also where you are in that moment as well. And I think that's, you know, that having been able to take all that from the environment, from the wilderness, from just one glance around, and there are so many things to be learned and so many, you know, opportunities to reflect. And I think that's why these open spaces in the wilderness in itself is so important for the veterans, because, you know, you could set a tree on your own if you want, and you could put the world to right, and you know, the only people, the only things listening are the squirrels and the birds.